want to talk about the gray, and typically I would edit my voice into like a longer term video, but I'm so passionate about this topic, you're going to be seeing my face. Strap in, this is going to be a long one. I know you see Poison Ivy behind me. She is extremely relevant to the gray, at least in terms of her current standing. But before we get into her, let's talk about its origins. Gray's first appearance shows up in the Swamp Thing Annual number 4, where when Swampy was casually strolling to the green, an outside power draws him close, takes him to a realm beyond his own. Swampy's plant-like body slowly gets corrupted by fungus, and this was gonna be his end until he was saved. Fortunately for the Gray, in the early years, it really doesn't have its own story plot, doesn't really have its own foothold. It gets reference, especially in terms of the balance of all the elemental realms, but again, it doesn't have its own arc. At least until we get to New 52 Swamp Thing, specifically issue 31. This is where we get a little bit more establishment in terms of the hierarchy of the Gray. There is no parliament, there is no avatar. There is no one out there to speak for it. Well, at least there wasn't until Poison Ivy started meddling with things. In this series, it kind of sets up Poison Ivy's interactions with the Gray. She's been doing a little bit of experimentation, specifically with fungi like the Lamia mushrooms. This experimentation and its effects carry over to her current solo run. In it, we learn that Ivy ended up consuming these Lamia spores, but not only that, it's trying to spread them and work for them to evolve and grow across the planet. After literally consuming an entity of the green, the old aspects of her godlike power, when she herself was an avatar of the green, starts to come back. You heard me right, she is an aspect of both the green and the gray coalesce into one being. Many trials come from this. The Lamia spores end up backfiring, creating a zombie apocalypse which ends up consuming her. This is something she wanted, by the way. Something she keeps reiterating as there is life and death and death and life. This cycle is what represents the green and gray. In death, thanks to her connection, she shows up to the green, but not just the green. Origin, the tree of life, the origin of life within the cosmos. It's just like, Ivy, we love you, like we get it. You represent the green more than a shit ton of other people, but you can't just be merging power sources like that. Like, you tip the balances eating those Lamia spores. We're gonna let y'all slide and, allow you to resurrect yourself, but you remember, you play a role. You don't overstep your boundaries. These ramifications keep on stacking. The balance between the gray and green keeps shifting. Green tries to tell her, aspects of the green tries to tell her, because of your actions, the gray is actually in motion. It's doing things it's never done before. Like I said, as much as she's connected to the green, she's also connected to the gray. And Xylon himself has a couple of words for her. This is Xylon, an entity made by the gray, before living things had mouths. The reason why Poison Ivy can now communicate with them is because of consuming those Lamia spores. This is the ramifications. This is the benefit of consuming those Lamia spores. She is the first spokesperson for the gray. Because of that, Xylon needs her help. Enter a vision explaining what the connection between the gray and green truly is. Since the very beginning of creation, when Earth, since they explain that Earth was there since the beginning of creation for somehow, but since the very beginning of creation, the gray and green were fighting for dominion on Earth. Again, a balance between the two. And they established, before now, the gray had no parliament. They had no avatar, no voice. But Ivy is now that voice. In order to save the planet, the balance between the gray and green need to be restored. Xylon reinforces the fact of something Ivy's been fighting herself with. She wishes she still had godlike powers, but again, Xylon tells her, you still do. The very fact that you are a merger of these two elemental forces shows that if you need help, the swamps will listen. If you need help, I will be there in the mycelium. Poison Ivy currently is one of the founding forces in all of DC right now. If something were to happen to her, everything is going to shit. You have to give her respect for that. I love the elemental forces of things. The gray is specifically my favorite because I love spores, fungi, things like that. And seeing how the development within the Poison Ivy series and how its relevancy, what its purpose truly is, and its antithesis to the gray or the green, it's perfect. Chef's kiss. I'm hoping DC keeps this aspect of her. It's cool, like, have Swamp Thing be the avatar of the green, but I want Ivy to be the representation as the border between the two realms. That's dope. Technically, she might not be an avatar fully, but she is their spokesperson right now. So I just love it. I love that DC's doing her character justice. Gray being developed, the blue getting developed by Aquaman. Who's gonna develop the red or the black, aka the rot, the metal, or the vibe? There's so many different elemental realms that still need to be touched on. Get on it, DC.